welcome to Chapel by the Sea's Curiosity Conversation number 4. Today I'll be interviewing Donna Dennis. Donna is originally from Michigan. She was a teacher up there for many, many years, and she retired to Clearwater Beach and lives on Island Estates. Today you'll get to know a little bit more about Donna Dennis, so enjoy. So our Chapel Curiosity Conversation today is with Donna Dennis. Donna has been active in our church for many, many years. She is the chair or co-chair now of the Congregational Life Team, so you probably know her some from that, but let's get to know her a little deeper. So Donna, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? What do we need to know about Donna Dennis?
Well, I'll just do it chronologically. I was born in Detroit and grew up in Dearborn, Michigan, home of Ford Motor Company and all of that, and have always had, I think, a sense of adventure. So as I tell people, I was born in Detroit. I taught high school for 30 years. Nothing scares me. So, and I've always been amazed that if you are an open kind of person, opportunities present themselves to you. And I admit I was a workaholic. I am a fairly driven person, intense, all those kind of type A descriptors. But I did attend the University of Michigan, got my bachelor's from Ann Arbor, master's from Wayne State in Detroit, and taught high school and college English for over 30 years up in Michigan. So taught for the Southgate Community School District, which is what we call the downriver suburbs of the Detroit area, a lot of blue collar factory working kind of folks. And because there used to be a lot of steel mills there, as well as auto industry, glass, and so on. And I'm the oldest of 3, and I was the first one on either side of my family to go on to college. So I'm a classic cutting edge baby boomer. Neither of my parents went to college. My dad served 3.5 years in the South Pacific in World War II. My mom also had part-time jobs, sales clerk and bank teller and whatnot. But basically, in fact, every good thing I am, I credit to my mom. She was wonderful. What's interesting, just a little piece of family history in light of the current situation. We have now been getting more educated on the previous pandemic, which was the influenza outbreak of 1918-1919. My father, who was born in Ironwood, Michigan, which is the very top of Michigan, right next to Hurley, Wisconsin, at age 4, he was orphaned. His entire family was wiped out by the Spanish flu. So it absolutely shaped the person he became, because he never really connected very well with people. And yet both my folks worked really hard, and I was their golden girl. I know I was the favorite, and they worked very hard at being fair, but I was, they liked me best. But anyhow, I had a terrific career as a high school English teacher, and did a whole lot of other things as well. Sang with the Dearborn Community Chorus, and a teachers union secretary, and a whole lot of other kinds of things. And most of you know I'm very active in the women's movement and so on. But I've been very headstrong. Loved teaching, though. I'm one of those strange women who loves teenagers. I'm not good with little kids. Babies, hi, take them back. But older teenagers, they're interesting. They talk to you. You can look them dead in the eye. In fact, I'd have parents who say, you say the same thing to my kid that I say, but they listen to you. They hear it when you say it. And I go, power of the gray book. So, but that's one thing I love about Facebook. I've been able to stay in touch with many of my former students. In fact, one of them texted me this morning. I wished another one happy birthday this morning. I edited a master's proposal for one of my former students last week. So it's really cool to see these people who in my mind are forever 18 and now they're flourishing adults with their own lives. One of the side notes that I never realized while I was teaching is that so many of the students who have reached out to me afterward were the students who turned out to be part of the LGBT community. And they said I was the one person on staff they felt they could truly relate to and share with, even though that isn't an issue that came up. Because when I was teaching, I mean, that was one of those taboo subjects. But I guess I'm very proud of the fact that not only did I teach communication skills effectively, but I provided a safe place for teenagers to be whomever they were. And so, and I taught them all from Remedial English 9 to AP English, and lots and lots of writing classes. I think I'm proudest of the fact that I taught every different kind of writing, from technical and researched writing to creative writing, and many of my students have gone on to be published in their field. So, and a lot of them said they were successful in college because I taught them how to write.
Yeah.
So, what else? Oh, been married and divorced twice. Currently seeing a guy who lives in North Carolina, currently ensconced in Baltimore, and love to travel, love to read, do word puzzles, always do 100 things a day, and have a poodle named Tuffy. So, and he and I are walking more than ever. We walk miles every day.
This is Tuffy's dream, huh? This.
Yeah, he's very possessive. And you know, he rules the roost. There's no question about that. So he's curled up at my feet right now. But believe me, once I'm off the call, it's going to be, you know, time to hit the road again.
Yeah. Well, tell me, so, I mean, you were in education and teaching English your whole career. So you started right out of college, right? And tell me.
Mm-hmm. Although I was laid off for 3.5 years, the recession of 1982. And no, in fact, I was laid off for 4 years from teaching. And that's when I led a senior employment program for people 55 and over, low income, helping them get back in the job market, putting them in public service employment, and then trying to get them jobs. So I did that. I worked for AARP for 3.5 years in between.
Well, what made you choose, well, education, first of all, but then specifically English education?
I was a geek. I mean, I really, and back then, you know, Skinny Four Eyes-er and Walking Dictionary was one of my 6th grade nicknames. I did win the school spelling bee in 6th grade. So I've always loved words. They're magic. And English is the best of all the languages because it's the biggest. Most languages have 30 to 40,000 words. English has over 100,000 words. So whatever you're feeling, experiencing, etc., if you work at it, you can find the word to express what you want to say. And I find that fascinating. So I've always had this love affair with words. But then as I went through school, with each grade, I'd like that grade best. So I always enjoyed school. I mean, let's face it, we tend to go to what we know best and what we excel in. So other than advanced placement math, which I never should have signed up for in the first place, what was I thinking? I did well in school. And then the whole teenage, and believe me, junior high was so painful. Oh my God. I remember myself as a junior high kid, and it's like, I'm so glad I got over it, but I never forgot the feelings that went with it and how hard it is to be a teenager. And it's even harder now. I don't think I could be a high school teacher now, but I really enjoyed teenagers. So, you know, words are my life, but teenagers, that was the generation I really glommed onto. So I just always knew I wanted to be an educator. And I really felt a sense of mission about it, as if I was called to be an English teacher as much as anybody's called to do any other kind of job. And I know that might sound corny, but I always felt a sense of mission about the work I did.
So looking back, And you're still in touch with a lot of your former students.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one particular story, maybe even two stories that just kind of stand out over your long career in education, of like a success story or something you're really proud of?
Oh, okay. One young man who I'm still in touch with, I I had him twice, first as a ninth grader and then again as a senior in high school. And I never even realized when I was being his teacher that I had such an impact. I think, when you have 150 teenagers a day, you don't necessarily. But the fact is, he stayed in touch. He sought me out over the years. And this is a young man, when I first knew him, I mean, he was very tall for his age. So, yes, he played sports, basketball, and several others. And he was a good kid and worked hard, but nothing that was that remarkable. And yet, afterward, he stayed in touch and he went into engineering. He's in civil engineering and he works for an international company that does like the fire prevention kinds of work with businesses and so on. And all the way through his career, because he has learned to write well and speak well. Because I always used to say, so many scientists, especially, half the ideas, the next big thing, those ideas fall through the cracks because people haven't learned how to communicate those ideas to other people and how to include their audience. What does the audience want to hear? What's in it for them? And so this is a young man who's great in engineering, but we work together and he has learned that because he now is so fluent as a writer, he has actually organized a group of writers in his area. And here he's an engineer and has had great success professionally, but his hobby is creative writing. And he says, goes back to when I had Ms. Dennis for a teacher. And this is a young man, by the way, even though I think he was class of 91. I actually saw him last summer when I was up in Highlands, North Carolina. He saw on Facebook that I was there visiting friends. And he said, how long are you going to be there? I said, till Saturday. He said, he lives in Greenville, South Carolina. He drove 2 hours. He and his wife drove 2 hours to meet me for dinner in Highlands, North Carolina. And we had a great time. Oh. So, and again, forever in my mind, he's 18 years old. Because last time I had seen him before 1990, before last summer was 1991 when he graduated. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun.
So you spent your whole career in Michigan and then you moved to Florida after you retired. Is that right? And
yes.
Why did you choose Florida? Why here?
Oh, well, my folks also Dearbornites, and those of you who know anything about the history of Clearwater Beach might have heard of Dearborn Towers, a building that I now live in, known as Island Way Towers, which is now all condos, but it used to be 88 1- and 2-bedroom apartments. And what was unique about the building is that it was owned by the city of Dearborn, Michigan, as senior housing for Dearborn retirees. Well, my mom and stepdad had an apartment down here starting in about 86. So my school vacations, I'd have 2 suitcases, one of clothing and one of research papers. And I came down here and sat by the pool and graded research papers. And so I knew about Clearwater. And of course, every vacation, my folks would take a day where we would do one big thing, like Weeki Wachee or Universal Studios or what have you. Cypress Gardens, which used to be classic old Florida. Anyhow, after I retired, and again, I was a maniac when I was teaching, hardcore workaholic, just worked around the clock 24/7. Anyhow, 2 years after I retired as a public school teacher, I was still teaching college, but I realized I was walking around my house in Michigan, room to room, with an ot light in my hands because I had seasonal affective disorder. And I mean, I'm usually an upbeat person, and I was crying all the time, nearly suicidal. And it was because of the gray skies of winters in Michigan. And so I said, duh, you're retired. So I called the City of Dearborn Housing Department and I said, could I get on the list for Dearborn Towers? And they said, we don't have openings now, but we'll call you when we do. 3 months later, they called back and said, we have a unit on the water on the 7th floor. When can I sign? And so I was a snowbird for 6 years. And then one morning, 2010, I woke up one morning and I said, that's it. I'm tired of handling 2 homes. And so the market was terrible, but I said, it's time for me to sell. And so it took 6 months to clean out, pack up, and all of that. And so it was actually October of 10 when I moved here full time. And I started a whole new life. I didn't know anyone here, but I knew I'd be okay because I'm the kind, I don't sit still. And so I get busy and get active and do stuff. So I've had a couple other careers since I've been here, do all different things.
Yeah. Have you regretted your move down here at all? Are you?
Oh, not a moment, not for a split second.
Right.
I don't miss snow. It's good for Christmas cards and that's about it.
Yeah. So,
And no more stepping out of the car into slush that comes up over your shoes or your boots. Oh, no. And I fell on ice. I have a terrible history of falls and I have slipped on ice. I have hurt myself badly. So I don't do that anymore.
good. Well, I know at the church we're glad that you have landed in Florida permanently. Well, speaking of the church, why Chapel by the Sea? Like you invest a significant amount of your time volunteering, working with the chapel. Why? Why is that?
And it's interesting. I'm going to tell you, when I was in Michigan, I went to First Baptist Church of Dearborn, and I was a member until the church closed a few years ago. But I fell away from it for decades. When I was first married the first time, I was actually even a deaconess in the church and felt a very strong commitment. But once I was divorced, I felt that the church didn't have a place for divorced people or single people. And I wasn't feeling it. And I will admit also my politics kind of took a left turn. And I didn't feel as a feminist that I fit in anywhere. So I was familiar though with, again, because of my times down here, not because my parents, they went to Calvary Baptist, but my sister, who also has a condo on Clearwater Beach that she visits like 2 or 3 times a year. We started going on Christmas Eve to Chapel by the Sea because we're all on the beach. And we loved it. The music, the positive sense. And I say this, Chapel by the Sea, there's a special vibe about it. It's positive, it's inclusive. I felt truly a spiritual oasis. I landed here and I went, this is what I've been missing. I'm sorry if I cry, but it was so marvelous to feel like I found where I belonged spiritually here. And so Herb, of course, got me busy. He's the one who got me on marketing. And then I went on to do congregational life. But then Rhonda came and I feel like, she's the daughter I never had. But also, I can talk to her about anything, but the openness of our church, the welcoming spirit of this is where we can all belong and be a part. And whatever people's gifts, there's a place for you here. So the people are wonderful. Yeah. Oh, and all of Clearwater Beach. When I was a visitor center manager for the Clearwater Beach Chamber, again, I met all these great people around, business owners, general managers, and so on. That sense of community is so strong. It's the number one word I think of when I think of Clearwater Beach, community, that we all belong here. And there's a place for all of us here.
Yeah, well, that was beautiful and touching, your love for the church and for what it means to you and for the community. And I think that's probably a good place for me to open up the conversation to other folks. So I'm going to invite you to put your screen on gallery view. And what questions do you have for Donna? And let me remind you to unmute yourself because I have muted you if you did not mute your own self.
Yeah, I see everybody's muted.
No.
Well, I'll jump in, Donna, and say thanks for the story from another educator. It's wonderful to hear about the mission passion that you have, and I'm not going to say had because it's still there.
Thanks.
And I also really appreciate your talking about the meaning for chapel to you. I too feel an inclusion there that is unique to any of the other worship communities I've been a part of. And for that, I'm truly grateful. So thanks for sharing it. I don't know that I have a question for you, unless you can tell me where I can find a place on Clearwater Beach, because I would love to make, I am a snowbird from Minnesota, and strongly considering making the visit to Minnesota a summer short thing only.
Okay. I will send you a couple of contacts, the info on a couple of realtors who work here on the beach. I think there's a unit in my building that's available right now. I'm not sure of its status, but there are other places around, and they're personal friends of mine, so they would give you the straight information. Okay.
Well, I just put that out rhetorically, but thank you. I'll take it.
Oh, I'm a get her done person. It's like people have an idea, like, okay, well, we do this, then we do this. Yeah. So.
I don't really have a question, but I'd like to say thank you to Donna for all the fun times that we've had doing things for the church and keeping us all involved and helping. That's been great.
Oh, thank you, Jane. You're wonderful. I mean, I have the best committee in the church. I second to none. I mean, anything we need to get done, it happens. So, and we'll fire up once this is over. Yeah, we'll get things going again.
Yeah, I thought I was going to burn you guys out this year. It turns out joke's on me, right?
On all of us. Wow. I've never been home this much in my life.
I know. That's hard. And I actually thought that since we weren't having services, I was right on the verge of calling you to say, maybe we can finish up the kitchen.
Oh, that's right.
And then we all went on the nobody go anywhere rule.
Exactly.
We're kind of in a limbo. I thought, perfect time. Nobody will be there.
Oh, definitely. Not that we couldn't still do that, because we can get into the church at certain times.
We can. Yeah. Well, if you decide you're really bored, give me a call.
I will do that. Okay, very good.
My husband's home working, you know.
Well, I was so hoping that since I was here for a long period of time and almost 3 months, that I could really hop in with both feet and get really involved at the chapel, but that kind of backfired as well. But every time I am in town, which is about 6 times a year, if not more, I always make sure I'm there and attend whatever activities are going on. And I have a question for Donna. I want to know what kind of vitamins she takes.
I'm very blessed to have a very high energy level. Even when I was a toddler, my dad said I was made out of springs and rubber bands. So I've always, and to me, multitasking is like breathing. I've never just done one thing at a time. So, and the biggest element of all, though, is a positive attitude. I really am a silver linings kind of person. So I've been working on that. It's been a bit of a challenge sometimes because, you know, we've all been through some bad things in our lives, but I am truly blessed now. And by choosing the good and the positive, I've had to purposely get away from negative people. My second husband was the single most cynical man on earth. And once I finally realized that, it was done, it was over. And as one of my teacher friends said, oh, thank God you kicked him out. Pick your head up for the first time in a year. And I hadn't even realized how depressed I had been. So stay positive and surround yourself with positive people.
Yes, I really second that. I've had to divest myself of several people in my life who, and many were female friends that were just not healthy people to be around. And one thing I did notice that after about the first week of the virus thing and all the terrible news, I would wake up and I would go, okay, so what am I going to do with this day? And then I said, oh no, you're falling into a bad trap. And now I wake up in the morning and I leave my blinds open and I have a beautiful view out my bedroom window. Now I wake up and the first thing I let myself think is, thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. And
I go, oh wow, another day. Yeah.
Yes, and it's made all the difference in the world. Thank you, Lord, for another beautiful day. And then you get up and it doesn't matter if you stay in your pajamas until 1 o'clock because you started off with a proper outlook, and it's made all the difference in the world. And I don't watch the news all the time now like I did.
And that's okay.
I have another question for Donna. You said your dad said you were made of springs and what was it?
Rubber bands.
Rubber bands and springs. So last interview, we learned that Jane is the silent genius. Is there a nickname for Donna that we need to know? Do you have a nickname?
Oh, the walking encyclopedia.
Walking dictionary. Walking dictionary.
Walking dictionary.
Yeah. And the Energizer Bunny. All my life, I've had people call me the Energizer Bunny ever since that became a thing. I mean, even my last year of teaching, I remember walking down the hall with 3 of my students. And they're like, Miss Dennis, wait up. Because they couldn't keep up with me. That's my normal walk. And I really have tried to slow down because I keep tripping and falling. But yeah, I'm very fortunate that way. It's one of my gifts, and I've tried to maximize it by doing as much as I can with the talents I've been given.
Yeah.
Sounds terribly vain. I'm sorry.
Hey, Donna, it's Carla. I just wanted to tell you that I love your get it done attitude. I love your politics. And how divine it is that Rhonda's in the church with us, because it's just, I can't even say.
No coincidence there.
That's exactly right. I have, because of her, and people like you in the church, I have just a renewed spirituality and everything. It's amazing to me. And I want to thank you for that, because you're part of that. And I also want to tell you, your makeup looks awesome today, Miss.
Thank you. You know what? I purposely put it on. Well, Rhonda called me about 10 to do this at noon. And it's like, because I'm usually so pasty white. I said, you know what? Because if I don't put on some mascara, my eyes just sink back into my head. And so I purposely did. And that way, because I was afraid I was going to forget how to put on mascara. So I purposely put on makeup for all of you today.
Well, I appreciate a makeup fiend myself, so.
I just feel more confident. Like my students used to say, Miss Dennis, you dress up, because I always wore suits or skirts and a lot of blazers. Even with slacks, I usually have parts on, a little bit dressier, except for Casual Friday. And I said, you know what studies show? If you demonstrate that you take your work seriously, those around you learn to take you and the work seriously. Yes. That's why I could tell my students, look, I'll make a deal with you. You work with me, by the time you leave me, you will read, write, and speak better than you do now.
That's awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, I figure not many teachers give a guarantee. Plus, they have a lifelong editor if they need it. So.
That's good.
I can edit in my sleep, I swear.
Well, let's give it up for Donna Dennis.
Thank you.